Welcome. We are going to be talking about assembling your way to accurate estimates using and building assemblies in DESTINI Estimator. I'm very excited to have our presenter, Josh Walker, today. He is going to be walking us through how to do this. So Josh, I'm going to kick this over to you and we'll get started.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on your Friday. Just as Julie said, today we're going to go over assemblies. So we'll cover three main topics. We will go over how we interact with assemblies inside of DESTINI Estimator, what is an assembly. We'll also go over how we see those assemblies being built. Today we're going to go over a new assembly. So we've released something recently called DESTINI Hub. It includes a library of 58 assemblies. So it'll have a library of 58 assemblies in those. If you want to learn more about DESTINI Hub, we'll put the contact information for that in the chat. So we're going to start with DESTINI Estimator. And what is an assembly? So an assembly is a group of line items with a series of questions asked about them. Today, we're going to review our room finishes assembly. So when we select on an assembly, we're going to start off normally with some key metrics or variables about those rooms, or about that assembly, excuse me. Those can come from takeoff, but we've covered takeoff in a previous webinar, so we're just going to manually enter our variables for today. So as we enter our area, our perimeter, and our height, these are the key things about our room. Now we're going to be prompted with 4 questions. As we start to make selections in those questions, line items will start to appear over on the right-hand side. So as we go to make our first selection, what is the flooring that we want to carry for this particular room? We select on porcelain tile, our porcelain tile line item will appear. Same thing, if we go back and we change that to epoxy, our epoxy line item will appear. So we're selecting the cost item that we want to carry for flooring. After we've selected our flooring material, it will ask if we want to include attic stock. If we select yes to that, it will ask us what percentage we want to carry, and that percentage will be added into the quantity of our line item. As we continue to work our way down our assembly, we'll select on our base. We've already been through our attic stock, so we won't include it for any of our subsequent choices. We'll go in, we'll select on the ceiling that we want to use. We'll also go over our wall finishes. So we'll say for our first run of our assembly that we have one finish of that wall, and we'll select on the wall that we want to carry. Well, what is controlling what line items turn on and the formulas that are being used? That is all set up inside of the DESTINI Data Manager, our database management program. Good news there is we can export your database to Excel, and that's where we'll review the assembly that we've worked on this morning. So assemblies are made up of 3 primary things. The first is a line item. So this is the room finishes assembly. This is an assembly that we just used inside of Estimator. All of our line items are controlled on the line items tab of this Excel book. Line items contain their description, the unit cost, and all the WBS properties about it. So that's the epoxy flooring that we were turning on that selection. The second thing that an assembly consists of is it consists of choices. Choices are going to control the drop downs that we see inside of Estimator and when a line item turns on. So for example, as we look at our first choice, we have our flooring choice. We're able to control the question. So select flooring material was the question that we were asked inside of Estimator. When we looked at our options, we had 0 all the way down to terrazzo. So as we go back and we look at that assembly, our question was select flooring material, which is what we saw earlier, and our options ranged from none to terrazzo. If we change our selection to terrazzo, the line item flooring terrazzo poured in place turns on. That turns on because that is the line item that is associated with that selection. So a choice is going to control the drop-down list that we see inside of Estimator, and will also control the line item that is turned on when we make a selection. The third thing that an assembly is made up of is a formula. So formulas are made up of the variables that we talked about at the beginning. So when we were asked for area, perimeter, height at the beginning of our assembly, those were variables. So terrazzo got our area plus any flooring attic stock that we had chosen to carry. If we were to switch to carpet tile, for example, of course, here we're going to convert to square yards. So we're dividing by 9. We can see that as we go back to our assembly, we select carpet tile. Now we receive the square yard we're going to measure for that line item, and our quantity is being divided by 9. Assemblies can also change the follow-up questions that they ask based on how you answer previous questions. An example of that can be seen with our wall finishes. So initially we answered 1. We go back and change our selection to 2. Now instead of just being asked for 1 material, we'll be asked for 2. So we can go in, select on what we'd like to carry. So we'll say we have acoustics for our first material, and then we'll paint above that. We'll be asked to what height do we want to carry those acoustical panels. What allowed that to happen was back inside of our template. Once we get down to that question, we can see that if we're asked, if we answer 1 under the question, select number of wall finishes, it's just 1 follow-up question. But if we select 2, there's 2 sets of questions with 2 sets of answers to accommodate that. Last thing for me to cover today, our training team has done a wonderful job of putting together lessons in the BECTEC training portal that cover how to build a line item database, also how to build an assembly, and how to modify assemblies as well. Julie, that brings me to the end of my piece. I was going to open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Josh. We do have some questions. Can you clarify, we have customers that are using an on-prem version of Estimator, so it's housed in their servers, versus our customers that are using hosted. Are the assembly libraries in DESTINI Hub available to both users, both on-prem and hosted?
I believe it will be hosted. Let me follow up and answer that question afterwards, Julie. I can get an answer and send that out via email.
Cool. I will make sure that that answer is provided in the email we send out. Are there any plans for us to create an MEP assemblies to add to the current list of the 58?
So in that current list of 58, I believe that we do have some conceptual MEP assemblies. I can ask and follow up there as well if we plan to get into more detailed MEP assemblies.
Cool. Can a regular user make an assembly, or is it more of a select skill for regional admins?
Historically, we would see that being a regional admin due to the fact that you will need database access to make an assembly.
Josh, you're answering these questions really easily. So another question, can you customize the drop-down answers?
Yes, so the drop-down answers that we see when we, for example, if we look at our base, that 0 to 9, those are based on the unique values that you have inside of your choice. So for as many options as you have in your choice here will be the values that you see inside of Estimator. So we have 9 for base. We have an A, B, C, and D as well for flooring. So when we go back and look at that flooring option, it has additional selections. So as many options as you have in your choice is how many options you will see in your assembly dropdown.
Awesome. And I do have questions coming in about how do you gain access to the assembly list. I did put a comment in the chat that says if you want to be able to access the assembly list, please reach out to our team member Connor. His email address is connorward@bec-technology.com. And I'll also include that in the follow-up email today that will include this recording, and we can make sure that you have all the information you need about accessing the assemblies. A couple of other questions coming in, I'm reading them right now. Any tips or best practices for nested questions?
So nested questions are things like, when we had not had a flooring material, we weren't asked about do we want to carry stock. So nested questions are control where you can have a variable control based on a previous answer inside the assembly. And those are a topic that are covered inside of the how to build, how to modify assembly lessons. So I would send people there.
Cool. Okay, so the question is, our company constructs our assemblies in a sandbox environment. What is the process for importing that to our production database?
So that is a great question, one that we have a wonderful customer success team. So you'd want to make sure that this lines up with the practices you have talked with them as well. What we typically see our clients do as a whole is that they will have a copy of the database that they use day to day, where they're working on assemblies that have not yet been published. That is historically called a sandbox database. So we can make any changes there that we want and not have it affect our production database. What we see our clients do is if they want an exact copy of their sandbox, you can replace the database if you're using in production. Also using the Excel workbook that we showed today, if there's an individual assembly that you want to move from your sandbox database, you could take that assembly from the Excel workbook for your sandbox and easily move it over to your production database and then import that assembly into your production database.
Thanks for explaining that, Josh. I will say for the person that asked that question, I'll make sure that your CS rep knows about that and make sure that they connect with you on walking you through the specific process for your company. Another question that's come in is, can an assembly interface with specific database items? For example, assembly selections for metal size and gauge selecting the appropriate database item, inclusive of material and labor costs.
Yes. So normally where we would see that is things, think of a drywall wall. You could have a selection that allows you to say, hey, which gauge or which stud size are we using? And then your follow-up question could only give you valid stud sizes for that gauge. So assemblies can have, just like we went over wall finishes, they can change the answers to follow-up questions based on how you answered your previous ones. Then that would turn on the correct line item, and then our line items have 5 cost categories. So they have labor, material, sub, equipment, and other. So we could have a material cost there along with either a labor unit cost or a crew for productivity.
All right, and this is going to be our last question for today. If you do have more questions, please submit them. I'll make sure that they get answered. So the question that's come in is, when using an assembly with automatic takeoff and estimator, why does the takeoff always default as an area? When will we be able to set the default takeoff of an assembly to length or count?
So today, yes, our assemblies and automatic pricing are always defaulting to area. That is an enhancement request to be able to change those to length and also have count based as well.